Since we're coming up to the end of 2022, I thought it would be a great idea to do a recap of some of my spending. So that includes where I spent my money the most, my top spending categories, as well as my best and worst purchases. So I'm a little hesitant to go over some of these numbers because I spent a ton of money. Looking back, I'm like, oh my God, like that's just ridiculous in some ways, but in some ways, like I also enjoyed some of the things I spent the money on. So there's that, but we're gonna just talk about it anyway. To start, we're gonna go over the places where I spent the most money, starting from the least spent to the most spent. So number 5 is Target, and I spent $2,235 there, and that makes sense because I use Target for grocery shopping. There's one like less than 5 minutes from my house. It's actually like the closest place for groceries, so I go there often. And I also have a Target Red debit card that I use for like 5% back as well, so that's even more reason to shop there. So that, I'm like, that's a good amount, you know, reasonable, I feel. The other ones, a little less so. So number 4 is Chanel. So I've talked about this many times. I have a couple of vlogs about this, but I did go to Chanel quite a few times this year. So I spent $4,805 at Chanel, and I purchased a bag there. It's, you know, documented in my vlogs and whatnot if you're interested. I also did a haul where you can see me unbox them as well. Number 3 was Apple. I was at Apple so many times this year. Like, they got all my money. So I bought 2 computers. There's a story behind that, but I don't know that we have time to get into it. I bought an iPad, and I might have bought my phone this year as well. Like, I don't really remember. I think I did. So yeah, tons of money spent at Apple. So that totaled $7,805. Number 2 is Le Bon Marché, and in line with the Chanel purchase, Le Bon Marché is a French luxury department store, and they have like standalone luxury houses in there. So one of them was Chanel, and I made another purchase at Chanel. As you guys know already, I bought a Chanel classic flap, so you already know how much that cost. So I ended up spending $8,547 there, and this is before the VAT refund and whatnot, but still, it was a ton of money at Chanel. Do I love my Chanel bags? Absolutely, but looking at the price, it's a little jarring, but it's okay. Number 1, I wonder if you guys can guess this one. I feel like you can if you've been like, you know, around for a while. But number 1 is Lexus. As you guys know, I bought my Lexus this year, and I've said it multiple times, but I love it. No regrets whatsoever. But in terms of how much I spent this year, because I did get a car loan for it, I have a video documenting like how much I spent for it, like every single part from the actual car, all the features, the closing cost, etc. So there's that, but this is just how much I spent this year. So I ended up spending $9,921 on my Lexus this year. So yeah. You guys can let me know what you think about all the spending in the comments below for sure. Next, we're gonna move on to my top spending categories, and it's gonna make sense based on what I just said, but let's get into it. So number 5 is personal care, and that includes skincare, hygiene, waxing supplies, all that kind of thing. Like, you guys already know, like, I love health and beauty, so I don't mind spending money there. You've already seen my Sephora hauls. Love Sephora. I'm a VIB Rouge now, so I spend at least $1,000 there, and then whatever else I might have bought, I'm not sure like where the other $1,500 came from, but you know, I love that kind of stuff, and I like to look and feel good, so that's fine. But anyway, I spent $2,551 on personal care. Number 4 is food and dining, which that one is a reasonable category, at least. So that includes groceries, restaurants, coffee shops, etc. And I ended up spending $4,864 on those things. Number 3 is travel, and this also makes sense for like, you know, my personality and things that I like. So travel includes flights, hotels, transportation, you know, the usual things. So I ended up spending $7,945 in travel, and once again, zero regrets there. I love traveling. I would spend more money if I had the time to go traveling. So that's totally fine with me. I've been to a ton of places this year. I can't even count. I will, of course, list the vlogs, and I have some pack with me's, etc. where I talk about where I'm going. But yeah, I went to a ton of places this year. So that was money well spent. Number 2 is auto and transportation. So if you saw the first part of the video, then this makes sense. But that includes loan payments for my car that I got this year, gas, and then maintenance fees. So in total for all these things, that was $16,121. Number 1 is shopping. So shopping, this is like a very broad category. So I got all these categories and all this information from Mint. So shopping just includes like most physical things that you can buy, but of course it includes electronics, and as I just mentioned, I spent a ton of money at Apple, and then it includes handbags, which you saw I spent a ton of money there too, books, anything in that range. So in total, I spent $24,921 on shopping. Now, if it's actually it's a consolation to myself, is that these 5 categories are where I spend the most of my money. So I did not spend very much outside of these categories. So that helps a little bit, but still, these numbers are a bit shocking. In preparation for this video, I watched a video that I did for 2020 where I talk about all the money that I spent for the year, and it's a great contrast to what I spent this year. But back then, I was paying off my debt, just so I was a little bit more conservative and know that I'm not debt-free anymore since my car, but since I have been just debt-free for a few years, I've been a little bit more spendy, so I think I was still kind of on that spendy kick, but might need to rein it in for the future. We'll see how it goes. Now we're gonna move on to something a little bit more fun. We're gonna talk about the worst purchases that I made this year. We're still in this year, and then some of my best purchases as well. So for worst purchases, actually it was harder for me to find these than I thought. Like I actually did not have many bad purchases this year. Like I enjoyed all the things, or the majority of the things that I bought. So this one is interesting. There are a few duds, so we're just going to talk about those right now. So this isn't in any particular order. These are just like the 5 things that I was not keen on that I purchased this year. So one is lottery tickets. Like I spent $30 on lottery tickets when the Powerball was like $1 billion or something like that, which like I'm fine with buying lottery tickets like rarely, maybe like once or twice a year. So that part was fine. It's just the fact that I spent $30. Like the probability of winning is like 1 in millions. So I feel like I shouldn't have wasted $30 on that. If I wanted to play, I should have just paid like 1 ticket and spent $2 versus like wasting $30 on tickets knowing that I'm not gonna win. So if I'm not gonna win, then I should just do like the bare minimum, which would have been $2. So yeah, that was not a great purchase. The next thing that I regret buying are these clipping extensions. So these are heat-free hair, kinky curly, I guess they're not curly, they're kinky straight clip-ins. Now there's nothing wrong with the clip-ins themselves. They're actually very nice. The quality is really there, and they actually blend relatively well with my straightened slash blown out hair. The problem is that I wore them once and I have not worn them again. So it was not a good use of money. And the reason I didn't wear them was because I had plans to keep them in for an extended period of time. And I literally put them in one day and tried to sleep in them and couldn't, and then took them out and like never put them back in. So they didn't meet their intended purpose, which means I don't use them, which means they're just like not they were not a good buy for me. Maybe in the future I'll find some use for them, but I don't know. They might like be getting sold. We'll see. The other thing that I regret purchasing was an iPad. Now, I've had my iPad for several years. Like I've had an iPad since there was a period in time when I like right after I finished undergrad and before I went to graduate school, like there was a period when I did not have a computer and like the iPad was the only thing that I used, and it was like lovely. Like it met all my needs because I'd never had to be on the computer to do any like real work. I wasn't making videos back then. There was like, you know, a purpose for it. It was good in that way. And then when I went to grad school, I got a computer again, and then I kept on upgrading my iPad regardless, even though I barely use it. Like the only thing I used my iPad for, or used to use my iPad for, was to listen to music, and sometimes if I went on vacation I would bring it with me to like watch videos, but I can do that on my phone. So anyway, it was not a good purchase in the current, like for my current needs, but I still bought one anyway thinking I would use it for content creation, but that did not materialize. Like I never used that. I don't like editing on it for videos. I prefer to use a computer, and I never like made any graphics or thumbnails on there. Like I didn't use the pen feature. So anyway, it was a waste of money. So I ended up selling it actually most recently on eBay for that reason. So yeah. Next up, and this one is a tad bit random, but not really random because it was definitely a bad purchase. So when I was in Finland, I was with my mom and she wanted a shake. So we were in the mall and we came across Jungle Juice. Like I think I've seen them before across Europe, but they might even be in America as well. I'm not sure. But anyway, so I ordered the shake and it was like the worst shake that I've ever had. I was like, this is the worst thing ever. But I spent like $8 on it and I was like so mad. I'm like, I'm gonna drink it anyway because the ingredients in theory were good. So I'm like, I can't waste this. Like I might as well drink it even though it was terrible. But that was like a mistake because it was like just literally I felt like I was going to die. It was like so dramatic, but it was not good. It was like the worst shake ever. So because I was in Finland and everything was in Finnish, like I didn't know what the ingredients were, and then even when I was like Googling it, like I couldn't figure out the ingredients until like after I had purchased it, then I found the ingredients. And we'll just go over them really quickly. So it has coffee in there and cacao, so chocolate. I love both those two things, but the thing that got me was the fact that it has the licorice in there. I hate licorice. And the other thing that got me is that it has pear and apple in there. Like I don't see how those work in combination with something that's like on the chocolatey milky side, like mixing fruit in there. Like it just didn't work for me. It was like the worst thing I ever drank. So never again, learn my lesson there. No, the last thing that was a bad purchase was my West Elm desk. And I'll have the prices for all these things on the screen, but I spent close to $1,000 on this desk. And the thing that got me with the desk, actually it's like right behind me, you guys can see it there, is that it did not meet my expectations. So when I first got it, started to assemble it, I noticed that it had these like little indentations in it, which is just the way that the wood was carved out. It wasn't done very good, so it just like did not look like $1,000 desk. And I did complain to West Elm about it, and they gave me $50 back, which did not make up for the fact that it was like this, because if I had seen that it was like that before I put it together, I would have returned it. But now that it was put together, like I'm not going to go through the hassle to return it. So it was like a total letdown in that way. And then most recently I noticed that it had a crack in the leg. I think that occurred like when I was like moving it, but still, like what furniture would like just crack that was like good quality for moving it, you know? So not happy with that purchase at all, because, you know, reality and the expectations did not meet. So that is it for worst purchases. Now let's move on to best purchases. All right, guys, so you already know what's going to be on there. I said it before, my Lexus NX, that was one of my best purchases of 2022. Absolutely love it. Like I mentioned, if you want to see the tour of it, go ahead and watch it and you can decide, you know, if it's worth like being on the list, but in my opinion it is. Next up is my Pochette Métis. So here's this beauty. So it comes with these 2 bags, these straps, and it also comes with a coin purse, but the coin purse is like in storage because I don't use cash for the most part. When I do go on vacation though, I do use cash, so I will use it then. But this thing is like so handy. I use it basically, this is like my everyday like bag, like when I'm going out to run errands, etc. I will use it, and when I'm doing something a little bit more fancy as well, I will use it as a dinner bag with the strap, and then when I'm out and about I use the crossbody strap. So it's just been a really nice purchase because it looks very nice, and then it also like is very functional. So I love those 2 things. So definitely worth the money. I went through quite the tail trying to get this thing, but it was totally worth it. You can watch my Turkey vlog if you want to see what I'm talking about, but yeah, worth it. Next up is going to be an experience, and that was my ticket to the Blue Lagoon, Iceland. Like, that was such an amazing experience. Like, I will never forget that experience. Me and my mom ended up going to Finland, Iceland, Germany. Where else did we go? I can't remember. I will put it down somewhere in the video if I do remember. But we went on this trip together in the winter, so this was like one of the experiences, and it was like so good. It was like me and my mom were just hanging out. Literally, we spent an entire day like hanging out in the lagoon. So the fun thing about the lagoon is that you can like do a bunch of facial masks. So we did that. They also have a bar there so you can drink and like hang out in the water. So it was like amazing in that way. It was just like a vibe. And then the snow was coming down, and then the steam from the water was just, it was amazing. Like, definitely worth the $7. In fact, we had this drink there. I'm gonna get the drink actually. It's so funny. So this is the drink that I discovered in the Blue Lagoon like bar. It's called Frisita. It's sparkling wine with strawberries. But I've never seen this anywhere before. And I actually, as we were leaving Iceland, so at the airport, we saw this in the duty free, and I was like so excited. So we bought a couple of them. I have 2 more left in my fridge, and I'm like savoring them for like the best moment, because this like is one of like the things that like makes me remember like that experience in Iceland, and it was amazing. So yeah. Next purchase, also an experience, was my hot air balloon ride in Turkey. That was amazing as well. Like, oh, the views, just, that was my first time also being in a hot air balloon, and like I thought I would be terrified of it because I'm not necessarily into heights, but I don't know, it felt like secure because the balloon reaches about up to here, so you don't feel like you're gonna like tip over. And there were like other people in the boat, and I met not a boat, there were other people in the basket, and I also met like a friend there as well. So it was just like a fun time. It was like the views, just everything about it, the feeling, it feels like you're floating. It was just such a good experience as well. So yes. My other favorite purchase of 2022 was this candle. That is the Eucalyptus Diptyque candle. Now, I talked about this in my favorites, or yeah, in my favorites in my monthly resets, and it still like has a place in my heart. And the reason is because, like I mentioned before, for the longest I could not find anything in candle form that smelled like eucalyptus, or in general, even in like body care, etc., just anything. It's very hard to replicate, I have found, but Diptyque did an amazing job. This thing smells exactly like eucalyptus. It smells so good. I love eucalyptus plants. I have it like all over my house. Burning this candle or just like having it nearby, it's so nice. It just like gives a very like relaxing spa vibe, and I'm very much into that. So this is my second favorite candle from Diptyque. I absolutely love it, and I'm glad that I discovered it this year. In fact, I'm definitely gonna make a repurchase for next year as well. So Yes. All right, guys. So that is how I spent my money in 2022. Let me know what you guys thought of that. Like, did I spend too much money? You know, let me know your thoughts. I don't know if I feel like I spent too much money. Like, I'm happy with what I got. So then the price isn't that scary. But like, if you're looking at something like not emotionally, like if I look at it in that way, then it's like, yeah, these numbers are a lot. But if I think about like my feelings towards it, then I'm like, it's okay. So that's my thoughts on my 2022 spending. But of course, like I said, let me know yours, and also let me know like if you actually know like what your best and worst purchases are for this year, or if you know what you spend the most money in, or anything like that, or anything you found surprising about your own spending. Let me know in the comments below. I would love to find out, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye bye.